Hello everyone, Scott here from Pillow Partners with this week's Pillow Talk podcast. Super excited for this one. Not only have I got you someone that's amazing in the short-term rental world, but they are actually leading the way when it comes to shaping the industry in Scotland. So I have been looking forward to this one. There's some really recent news challenging local authorities, challenging the government to make it better for everyone in the industry. So I'd love to introduce Anna Morris from the Edinburgh Address and Adore Scotland, and I will let you introduce yourself, Anna.
Hi, Scott. It's really great to be here. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Anna Morris, and I'm the co-founder and managing director of the Edinburgh Address and Adore Scotland. We market holiday homes in Edinburgh, obviously, with Edinburgh Address, but Adore Scotland is our sister company, and that's Pan Scotland, basically. So we focus on higher end properties, a little bit more niche, and we offer marketing solutions for owners who are just looking to basically get more bookings, more quality bookings, but they do their own operational side. In the Edinburgh Address, in Edinburgh, we can do both the management and the marketing. More traditional agency.
Perfect. And as well as that, we'll come back to the businesses at the end. But you're quite the celebrity when it comes to short-term rentals in Scotland. And it was this year, Anna, we first met at a beautiful castle along the Edinburgh coast, an industry retreat. And it was pretty cool. I think there was 20 people from all over the world. Industry leaders and me, don't know how I squeezed in, but 19 industry leaders stop. So we got a good few days together to chat about this, and the topic really close to your heart and definitely mine is the licensing that's coming in Scotland. Now we will have people south of the border, also international people, but I think licensing in some form will come to definitely England. Why don't you give us a brief introduction into what the government proposed, is in the process of doing, is in the process of making a mess of regarding the legislation?
Yes, oh goodness, it's quite hard to summarise this because it's quite a messy situation, but long story short, we now have licensing in Scotland. So anyone providing a short-term rental or a B&B or a various types of short-term accommodation needs a license now, or they're operating illegally. So that came into force from the 1st of October. So we have had to apply, all our owners and everyone in Scotland has had to apply for a license. Now there are slightly different models of the licensing across the 32 local authorities. So depending on which authority you are, so they're not all equal, and the costs for the licenses are not all equal. So in Edinburgh, you're talking about roughly £3,000-ish for a 2-bed property. By the time you include getting, so there's the planning element, and that's, we'll talk about that as well. But it's not, it's a costly business, basically. And of course it means as well, which is right and proper, all owners should have all the safety certs. So that side of it, absolutely, I think that's great. I think we all need to be operating with our guests in mind, and the health and safety of them should be paramount. So as an agency, when we first heard about the licensing scheme, we actually thought, oh, this is probably quite a good thing, because it means, we've always asked our owners to do PAT tests, all these kind of things. We've always said, look, this is what we need for you to be on our books, fire risk assessments, etc. So that just meant that everyone would be doing that. So we're like, yeah, that makes life easier for us. But of course, it's gained arms and legs, and it's not been a simple process. And in parts of Scotland, and let's just say Edinburgh specifically, it has meant the various permutations, but has meant a de facto ban for many short-term let operators, which is scary. I mean, that really is. So that's where we came into, we're like, well, we have to fight this, But I think as well, the industry, I don't know what you think about this, Scott, but really we've been demonised as a quite and the narrative that's that's been painted, and there's certain sectors that have agendas, and let's just say, and so in the media we've been, there's been a lot of issues publicised that may or may not be true about Airbnb and party flats, and that narrative is kind of fed into the licensing scheme, and instead of it being a system where you're presumed to be a good operator, it was almost like, well, we assume that these guys are bad, so we're not gonna, that it was like a topsy-turvy approach, and it's felt very, unfair from that perspective, and has made it really difficult. So we felt as well, and I'm lucky to be, I'm a member of the ASCC, which I think is important to be a member of your trade body. And of course, the ASCC were looking at this, and they had their lawyers looking through, and I got together with a group of people, and we felt that there are elements of this licensing scheme that surely have to be challenged in court. They seem, as well as unfair, they actually seemed illegal. So now we're talking about a year ago now, a group of us got together, and the upshot is that 4 petitioners decided to take on this huge, responsibility of going to court. And they were supported by, there was 2 or 3 others of us, there were 7 in the team, and we thought, well, the first thing we have to do is obviously getting legal advice doesn't come free. But we were pretty sure that we'd known at that stage that there were certain elements of it that were illegal. And of course, Fiona Campbell was all over all that kind of thing, and had sought legal advice. So we thought, right, well, let's take this further. So we got together, we said, right, these 4 petitioners are literally going to raise a judicial review, and we just went for it. But we had to set up a crowdfunding page. And we were looking at, it was not a cheap endeavour. So we thought, right, gosh, we have to raise about £300,000, which is a whole lot of money. So that was part of my role. So I wasn't a petitioner. I didn't go to court. I helped the team raise the money. So, there was a lot of picking up the phone and emailing, but our community really got together. And again, contrary to the belief that we are, so many of us are greedy and rich, and people were putting in £5 and £10, and I can't afford, because so many people, small operators, it's really, they're doing it as their living. And they don't earn lots of money out of it. So it was like, I can put in, and also it was low season as well. So people were saying, oh gosh, I don't have so much money. Anyway, we raised the money, and we raised over £305,000, and it became one of the biggest legal crowdfunding pages, I think, in Scotland anyway. And it was amazing that everyone pulled together, and it showed, we'd over 1,000 donations, because people really felt strongly about this. It's not just, as I say, it's people's livelihoods, but also it's this feeling of, can a democracy do this? Does it come here? What's going on? We need to, we have to actually, we just want fair and proportionate regulations. We're not asking for, we're not trying to stop the licensing. We just want it to be fair, so that if the purpose of it is to regulate the industry in terms of health and safety, then that can happen. If it's to regulate in terms of numbers, and, because obviously there's been talk about, and there's been huge numbers and data was floated, like 12,000 Airbnbs in Edinburgh. I mean, that's not true. That there really has never been that level. That was scraped data, it wasn't accurate. It's never been at that level. But again, if it's about finding numbers, yes, do implement a licensing regime, but keep it simple. Let everyone apply for a license, get a handle of numbers. But anyway, so we went to court, and that was the spring, May. Yes, because when I met you in Gilmerton, I was still in the crowdfunding.
Yeah, we didn't know the outcome.
We didn't know the outcome. So we went to court, and then early in the summer, and then June, the Lord Braid, who was the judge for the case, he came and basically ruled in our favour on some of the issues, and the main one being the rebuttable presumption. Now this meant, so the council had said that any properties in a stairwell could not get a licence. So you can imagine in Edinburgh, there's quite a lot of properties in a stairwell, and operating fine with their neighbours, absolutely, if there's stag and hen party flats or neighbours are really unhappy for whatever reason, that needs to be addressed. But this, again, it was going back to this assumption that every property is inherently bad, when that's not the case. Like for most of my owners, in fact all of them, the neighbours who are in that stair know the owner, get on with the owner, appreciate, they actually like it being a short-term let, because the owners want the stairwell to be maintained and really that and engage with the owners. So it's really important, if you do have a property in a stairwell, to engage with other owners, and if you can, and also give them the ability to, if there are issues, on that rare occasion there are, to make sure they've got a phone number, someone to call. But that it was the assumption by the council was that all properties in a tenement were problematic. So that element was found in our favour. So that was great. That meant that certain properties that had planning permission, this is when it gets complicated, because then there's further legal case, but it certainly allowed some properties, we felt right, okay, we're hopefully some properties who have what's called a certificate of lawfulness should be able to get a licence. In theory, we still didn't know, because it was still, the licensing regime hadn't been implemented at that point, but it felt like it was definitely a win, but we knew it was just the start of a kind of bigger battle, if that makes sense. So
well, I mean, you'd mentioned, I wrote down the word slight changes across the 32 local authorities. I mean, it's some of the things, and they've changed some of the things that we were getting asked for. I won't name the local authorities. Still some licenses we to get through, but I think we had, Pillow with 100 plus, maybe 120 in Scotland that we were involved in. Wasn't all 32, but there's a lot of them. Edinburgh super expensive, like Glasgow said, we won't give it. Again, Glasgow stairwells, shared entrances, they just made it very clear, even before this. Other ones were, hey, we can make money, we don't care. So ones were giving them out very freely, and then all changed. But from our point of view, local authorities were saying, you guys, you need a license by this date. Okay, well, let's put an application form in. Oh, well, we don't have the page up yet. You need an application. You need it in. Yes, well, let me do that. We don't have a page. Well, what do I need? You need an application submitted. What's in it? We don't know. And there was this deadline looming. Everybody was told, you'll be fined, you'll be operating illegally. Well, okay, tell me what I need. And the local authorities were like, we don't know, but you still need it in, and we'll still fine you. So,
exactly. That was. I mean, of course, when you phone or speak to some people working in the council, they're just trying to do their job, and they're genuinely. I mean, it must be a very difficult position to be put in, but absolutely. I mean, there's so many questions surrounding the application, and it was an onerous thing. Like you say, councils didn't necessarily know what was supposed to be part of the application, but even when you were filling in the online application, it was really confusing, and it took I had to help my mum through, because she was looking at it, she's like, I actually don't understand this, and there was a lot of people like, what are they asking for? And then even uploading files, you had to combine them because it wouldn't let you upload different. So it was just not an easy process at all, and very stressful for people. And I think that's the thing I keep going back to, is that most people in this industry are just good people trying to earn a living, trying to be hospitable, trying to welcome their guests, and we're not No, we're not. We're not awful people. We're just genuinely so. And the stress levels, I have people phoning me as well in tears and just saying, I can't cope with this. I know a lot of people in the judicial review team and our safe self-catering team as well. We're getting emails and genuinely people feeling like their mental health is really, really affected by this and at their wits' end and thinking, I don't know if I can actually do this. And a lot of people did give up, didn't they? I think just like, right, we can't do this.
And a lot of people did leave. So, and you said most operators and the people that have been operating for a long time, this is a livelihood. Certainly for us, we had a letting agency since 2006. So all our serviced accommodation short-term rental had the exact same as what the buy-to-lets would need them, apart from crazy floor plans and whatever stuff in my department you would need. But legislation-wise, I think most people would do it to protect themselves. So there was no law to say you needed X, but certainly as a managing agent, you wouldn't let your owners not have things because it's very dangerous.
Well, exactly. And it protects them, protects the guests, protects yourself. You don't want ever to be in that situation where something happens and you've not done the right thing. And it's common sense, really. But absolutely. It's like you say, I think most operators were doing most of these things anyway. And there were the floor plans again. The floor plans were funny. It's like, is this kind of floor plan right, or is this kind of I have to get a specialised floor plan? And for some councils, you had to get a specialised floor plan, and that costs money. So
gratefully, and once all this settles down, I think it'll push rogue operators out. So any legislation, anything with barriers to entry, and I always say, you'd mentioned democracy. It's good like democracy works. Anybody that would see any of my stuff know I think governments are inept, corrupt, and virgin evil, and all this has been played in by lobbying and other politically motivated things. And yourself and the people from the ASSC, every time they'd say, we're doing this because of X, those claims get refuted and said, well, actually, there's more empty properties than there are short-term rental properties. So if you wanted to solve the housing crisis, well, if you took all these Edinburgh properties away, it would solve the housing crisis. Well, they're not affordable housing. They're very expensive properties. So everything that was pushing this and driving this apparently kind of factually has been rebutted more or less.
No, that's absolutely true. And then not only rebutted, but then you have to look at the net good that something's doing. So if you have a city like Edinburgh and rural parts of Scotland, but a city let's go back to Edinburgh. So you need a level of short-term accommodation. You need that. So it's a provision, it's a type of accommodation that hotels and apartment hotels cannot replicate. So you have, at least 40% of our guests here are non-tourists. So we're talking about nurses coming as a secondment, people visiting sick relatives in hospital, some corporates, so you need that level. So at what point if you seek to eliminate something like short-term let sector, at what point does it start to unravel those things? Because where will people stay? Hotel prices are astronomical in Edinburgh. They're just going up, and yes, there are apartment hotels being built everywhere you look, but they're not going to. The traditional short-term let is an affordable value for money option, even at the higher end, because a family will stay. You have 2-3 bedrooms and you've got your family staying. So if that goes, then it changes the dynamic of a city. And as you say, if you're seeking to eliminate a sector, and even if it did solve the housing crisis, which it won't for the reasons you've just said, for many homes would sit empty, and also, like you say, they're not social housing. So even if it did solve it in some way or went a small way towards that, there's all these people that be losing jobs. There's all these people, in our sector who then would be jobless, and then of course the people, the need for that. But if that accommodation goes, and where will people stay? I mean, we're still getting people that will say to us, well, if we don't have those properties in August, for example, we're not going to stay in Edinburgh, they're not available next August, or we're coming, and academics are coming to come and they're looking for property for months. They don't want to stay in a hotel.
Yeah.
So
it's almost as if like landlords are pushing normal landlords out of the market to the build to rent sector, and the corporate landlords almost as if they want to push the small operator out and push the hotels and large apart-hotel operators. But the government couldn't be that corrupt and politically motivated, could it?
I know. Yeah, I mean that's the thing it has felt like a bit of an attack on small business, genuinely, because it's the small operators that always lose out. Really, and the big hotel chains come in, and the big apart hotel chains come in, and they pop up everywhere. And it's the small, operators. There's this real misperception that it's greedy, landlords, like I say, but it's actually the small businesses that suffer, who employ local people, who obviously tax doesn't go offshore. They do add value. I mean, we always try and work, we're small, but we try and work with local businesses. We use a local software supplier, Bookster, who are based in Edinburgh. We always work with, local cafes and restaurants and promoting them and saying, come here, use this. We're really quite into our sustainability as well, which is something that for a while we've recognised that a recent property we've taken on has got a real focus on that, and that's they use heat pumps, they everything, they have a wild meadow there. So there's all these things that us small businesses add in terms of value to a community, I think.
The Greens will be loving you then. The Greens will be backing you.
This is why I don't understand some of the things that the Greens say, not to get political, but some of the councils that you hear, that you're just like, I don't understand that, because we actually are sustainable in many ways. I think the carbon footprint of a hotel, building a new hotel, is an awful lot more than a short-term rent, which can, so anyway, but it's there's lots. I mean, I understand why that people get very, very passionate, shall we say, maybe on all sides. But like anything, there's a balance and there's a discussion, and that's what we really, really need to have. And I think that almost takes us to the next part of where we need to go going forward, is sitting at the table and just talking to the councillors. And
there was a lot of misconception, because you guys won your first case. You've just recently won the second judicial review, but there was lots of people, certainly in the community, say those champions in Edinburgh have done this, so we don't need to apply for the license. That's been challenged and it's illegal. I would clarify that we've been saying it's not the Scottish government that's been challenged. It's not just eradicated the whole licensing, because statistically, and yourself and Fiona from the ASSC know the amount of applications, percentage that's been put in, but a lot of people holding off because they think it's no longer required, but it is. Yes.
So there's still a licensing regime in place. You still need to be applying for a license or have a license application in. If you were existing hosts, you'd needed a license application in by beginning of October this year. But if you're a new host, you still need to apply. You can't trade until you've got your license. Existing hosts, we can trade while the license is being determined. The second judicial review came into play because Edinburgh had a short-term zone, a planning zone, which basically meant that everybody, as part of your application, licensing application, you also needed to apply for planning. So the short-term let area, and they applied it retrospectively. So they said, even if you've been operating for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, it's not going forward, it's going backwards. So that's where the second judicial review came in. And to petitioners, again, putting themselves out there and saying, right, we'll go to court, we'll take the council to court. I mean, such a big thing really to do as well when you think about it. And so that ruling came in just last week, and Lord Reid found in our favour, and again declared, elements of the approach taken by the council to be unlawful, in particular the short-term let, retrospective aspect of the short-term let area.
He said some strong words about it, and I can't remember the quotes, but I remember reading it and thinking, wow, they get really slated.
Unfair and illogical, I think, were the two words that he used. So again, a huge, yes, this is big. But again, and it's sad that we've had to do this to get to that point. So the dust is settling on that, because again, it's doesn't mean that the licensing stopped for a start. There's still the licensing. Also, the council could appeal. Mm-hmm. So we've got to wait and see if they will. But it's not necessarily a free pass for everyone. So again, it gets into complex planning issues and about material change of use and what is and isn't. So it's a lot more people will get through now. It should get through in the planning, but not everyone. So really, where we're at now is we really want to try and talk to the council and speak and say, look, let's get a dialogue going. Let's see what's the best outcome for everyone here, so that there's not further legal action, or because now people are sitting going, I applied for planning, and what does that mean now? I got refused planning. There's all sorts of issues and ramifications. So we really, really would. That's where we're at. We want the council to come to the table and open a dialogue and say, look, we are reasonable people. We just want a reasonable and fair licensing regime. So that's where we're at now, and we've just got to wait. So the dust is still settling a little bit.
That was weeks ago. That was a couple of weeks ago that this.
A couple of weeks ago.
Now this is only so this isn't like the central government, but it will affect and have a roll-on effect, and perhaps other local authorities. And I'm sure there was, perhaps it was the Highlands, but there will be other people saying, well, wait a minute, if that works in Edinburgh and they're a big mighty capital of the city, perhaps we could influence what happens in one of the other 31. How do you see this playing out across Scotland, and what's the kind of future for this in the short term?
So, I mean, there's still an element of unpredictability in the future, I'll be honest. I think absolutely other councils, like you say, the Highlands, are still looking at implementing a short-term let area that would need planning permission. They clearly need to look at, take this legal judgment into account when they're doing anything like that. And I think what happens next is going to be, as I say, it depends what Edinburgh Council do now. That's kind of a bit where we're at. What will they do now? Will they appeal? Will they come to the table? So there's still a little bit of watching and waiting to see what will happen, to be honest. I think what's really, really important now, and anyone listening as well to this, is that we still really need to have that voice. And in some ways, I mean, it would have been great if we could have. It would have been very difficult though, because the narrative that's being built against us has been so, well done. But we just need somehow the government and politicians and councillors to really understand the real stories behind us and what we do. And I feel that's something we can still do. It's not too late to write to your councillor. It's not too late to write to somehow tell your story. Don't let other people tell it for us. Don't let, us as an industry be demonized. I know that sounds sounds quite woolly when I say that, but we have to somehow take control of our own narrative and not let others do that for us. That makes sense.
And it leads us to the question. I think if the people watching this live, there'll be people watching this in the newsletters and watching it on YouTube later on. But for everybody watching this, that definitely I'm super proud of what you guys have done, and you've taken that up for 4 agents, taking it up for everyone in Scotland. What can we do? What can the audience watching do to help this? And not just in Scotland, because it will come to England, and how we handle this and how you guys challenge it and how we fight for our rights will affect.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think a part of this is, again, it's like thinking about our core values and why do we do this? Like, right back to basics. What is it why did we start this? I mean, I think when I look at like Pillow and the things that you do in terms of the social responsibility piece and aspect, I think that's fantastic. I think that story, we need to get that story out really loud. We need for people to understand that we as an industry do good things and that we're important and that our contribution is valuable and necessary and helps communities. If we can get that across in whatever way, whether it's being on podcasts, whether it's writing blogs, whether it's writing to your MP, whether it's writing to your councillor and to say, look, this is actually what I do. I speak to people, I've spoken to people at times recently say, I donate a part of my rental income to charity, and I'm not saying that we all become charitable in that sense, but I'm saying think about what it is we do for our communities and how we can change that narrative, because it still pervades you still see these images of key boxes on the news, and you still, there's still this talk and this assumption that what we're doing is not a sustainable model or is not necessarily an ethical industry, and those things aren't true, I don't think. So, I think that, and I think trying to shout about our stories and somehow getting it across the authentic, the real us and what it is we really do, and thinking about our core values, whether it's for our business, it's, I've realised that a value of ours is sort of like courage, and that sounds, it's quite hard to ascribe a value like that to yourself. But when I think about everything that we've had to do in the last year or 2 years, and all the people I've been working with, it is courageous to say, right, this isn't right, this is what we're going to do. And there's been aspects of having to put your head above the parapet as well, and that's been scary. I had to approach people through this journey saying, will you speak to a journalist? Will you go on TV? Will you just, and a lot of people said, no, I'm too scared. I'm too scared because I feel my business is going to be shut down. And that's just not a great place to be, is it? Really?
Horrible. And you are putting your head above. And again, I've been similar. We've been similar here to say you've been treated horribly. There's been real, let's even say, ineptitude or corruption in some local authorities. There's horrible things happening. And some of our hosts have been treated badly, and there's been just really destroying businesses, and because they've not done their job right, and they've said, no, because I have other properties, I can't speak out yet because I won't realize you'll find any reason.
Someone's at the front door.
That's Patrick Harvey's last. I know. Not even live.
What are you doing? Get off there!
Ross Greer inspecting your pronouns, Anna, to make sure that there's no time. But people have been scared to speak out. Also, and people have been apprehensive to jump into the industry, and they had plans to go into the holiday let industry. Really great products. They've got really great properties. Some of them they're going to be eco and like carbon neutral. You're a managing agent. I'm a managing agent. We will get asked all the time, is Scotland still a good place to be a holiday let operator? What does the future look like? Should I go through this process and launch? Again, for me, I would say an industry with barrier to entry is good. This will push a lot of non-serious, proper management companies like you and I will be left at the end of this, and with the best products. And again, with stock going down, demand still being the same or going up, then again, it's only going to push prices and occupancy rates up. So there is that side of it. What's your advice to people thinking about starting off in this industry? Is it worth it?
Yeah, so I mean, I think your sentiments there are absolutely where I'm at, because if I suppose if I didn't think there was a future in the industry, I wouldn't still be here. So I really agree with that, and I do think that it's a good thing to get rid of. We don't want rogue operators. We want, so if it's the better operators that stay, that's good. And there are definitely, I mean, it depends on the councils as well. Like you say, there are some councils that are at the moment quite keen to welcome vacation rental short-term lets, because they know that it contributes to their community. They know that they're an important part. So I suppose maybe right this minute, it might depend where you are. And I think things will change, hopefully, for the good in the next few weeks in places like Edinburgh. But certainly there are people who as I said earlier, we've taken on a lovely new property outside of Edinburgh. He's got a license, so there are opportunities still out there. You just need to understand the landscape that you're sort of working in, and as I say, I think in the next few weeks, months, hopefully things will change. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, there's a lot of comments, lots of good elements to the licensing, uniformity. Again, even if they had just said it's like the letting agent regulation. So landlord registration in Scotland is local authority based. Letting agent registration is central government based. And even if they'd done this nationwide, it would probably have been one approach, more resources, one easy, bigger portal.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And in the licensing, in theory, it's a good idea. As I say, or some kind of regulation. And we're not. I mean, I'm personally not against that. Most of us are not. It's just the way it's been implemented. So it's implementation of it, and to have it as one, because you can Scotland's a small place, isn't it? So you can literally be. Yep. You could have a property literally just a few meters and completely different. We're talking thousands of pounds more to apply, and different elements of whether they just different permutations as to, like, I've heard of various things about it's like cutlery required and drawers for some councils but not others, and it's very confusing. And so to have it on as a Scotland-wide thing would have made more sense, I think.
Someone commented, I'm sure England will learn from our mistakes rolling this out. That is true. Now, I know you've got people waiting at the door. So one final question for me. You've got your managing agency in Edinburgh. You've got the facility to help landlords across the UK. 1 minute to who's your ideal customer? If people watching want to reward you, and I'm happy for them to reward you because you're a hero in our industry, I'm happy for them to use you. You like your business, you deserve it. What's the ideal client for you? If you were watching and thinking, I like that.
So I mean, we look for we can take properties and put them on our site, the Edinburgh Dress and Adore Scotland. We can do a full marketing piece, or we can just list them for you. Our ideal client is someone that really cares about their guests, that puts them first and forefront, that has a quality accommodation, that has something unique about it, whether it's amazing views or their location, but just offering an all-round good experience for their guests. And we work really closely with our owners, so we do like to build relationships, and we do like to get to know the area. I've got a small team, we're local, so obviously when we take properties on in Edinburgh, we will focus on various areas in Edinburgh. And when we take properties on throughout Scotland, we obviously look and see what does that part of Scotland, what does it have to offer, what are the businesses, so we like to work with local businesses as well. So I mean, we're always looking for lovely properties to help market and help owners get some more bookings.
Lovely. And is your crowdfunding campaign still open? You relaunched it to fight legal challenges. Can people be?
Well, no, that's closed at the moment because we've been using that for the judicial reviews. I mean, hopefully there's no more legal action required. I can't, we just don't know. As I say, it depends what happens in the next few weeks. So no, there's no crowdfunding at the moment, but I'll let you know if anything changes.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you for joining us here today. The audience, I know my audience would have loved this. People have been asking for it. And you've been very great and eloquent in your putting across of what's happened. But the biggest thank you comes to me for your efforts in the industry. You put your head above the parapet, perhaps damaging your business to fight for the rights of everyone in this industry. So I'm sure everyone watching giving you a big thank you.
Thank you.
For today. Thanks for being a champion of the industry. And when we met in Gilmore, I was like, wow, that's my hero. And you went on to win that legal challenge, then another one. So a champion of the industry. Keep it up, and I look forward to seeing what you do next to help everyone.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Scott. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers, Anna. Thank you, and thanks everyone for watching. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.